Hi, how's it going? I'm back again. I've been hiding out for the last 2 weeks. I came down with a very bad dose of imposter syndrome, and I couldn't face even thinking about YouTube for the last 2 weeks. Um, yeah, it's been a funny one. I've heard a good few people talking about it, but I hadn't experienced it myself in the initial few days or few weeks of me starting out. So to experience it after 2 or 3 weeks, I was kind of a bit surprised. But yeah, it's happened now, and it's done, and I'm sure it'll arise its ugly head again. But I'll cross it when I come to it. So I had started out for about 4 weeks, little over 4 weeks, I think. And in the initial few days, it was a split decision. I had never really contemplated doing anything like this before. And just whatever aligned at the particular stage that I was at. I watched a video of somebody who sold coming onto YouTube and using this platform to progress in your life and career, or even meeting community and people. The way it was sold to me actually on this particular day made me think, oh yeah, that kind of seems like a no-brainer. It's not something I'd ever thought about. So literally the following morning I pressed record and I joined onto YouTube. And I was so delighted with myself. It was really exciting because it was a new start on something creative. I really love creativity, so it was very exciting for me to be doing something totally different than I ever contemplated before. I was loving it. I was 2 weeks on it, and I was posting very regularly. And I was getting views, which was nice. Like I remember on one of the videos, I suddenly had 9 views, and I was like, oh wow, it was great fun. So I felt very good about it. I felt it was flowing pretty well, and I was happy out. And I was so happy, I decided to tell 2 people that I know. And this is where things started to change for me. I didn't expect it. I thought it was just going to keep moving forward. But I actually, in looking back now on reflection, I realise what has actually happened is when you open yourself up now, just to note that the people that I actually spoke to about what I was doing, they're very encouraging, they're very loving, they have full hearts. It wasn't anything in a negative way that they said. But what actually happens, I've discovered, is when you tell other people about your plans or about what you're doing, you open yourself then to their perception or their perspective. And let's face it, like, we all have different experiences in life. We all have different outlooks. We've all had different things happen. So we look at things, every single person looks at things differently. Some people might see something in a really negative light and another person in a really positive. It just depends. Now, both of the people that I had spoken to, they were both very encouraging from the get-go and very excited. So that was great. But as they would speak a little bit further about how they were perceiving what I was doing, not even what I was doing, but even just in general, the platform of YouTube, they could not see it in the same light as I could see it. And you're not there to persuade either for different people, but they would give their opinion, and if it's not the same as your own opinion, it can kind of make you look at it in a less of a rose-tinted light, if you will. But one, for example, she was not so inclined or able to see the benefits of using YouTube as a platform where you could increase the numbers and move on to monetization. And she wasn't really, I suppose she was probably looking at how she could apply it, and she couldn't, I think. So she couldn't see any further progression with it. Or maybe it could have been that she was looking and seeing what the view that I had put up, and because she probably hasn't looked into YouTube, she wouldn't have had maybe an in-depth understanding of, in the beginning, you're just getting used to talking, so you'll talk about anything. It's not that you're trying to, like some of the first videos that I did, I just spoke about things maybe that I already knew very well, something personal, like a personal story from me, because then I don't have to worry about intricacies of factual information, like it's something about my own life, so it's very easy to flow. And that would have been the motive for one of my videos, is as opposed to it just being therapeutic and for me to just speak it to the world. It wasn't so much that, it was for me to get used to speaking to the world, and what subject, only something personal, is going to come easier for me. So, and then as well, I threw in a couple of things that I was learning as I was going along. So they were fresh, so it was easy for me to throw them in as well. So possibly from an outside perspective, she was maybe viewing it and seeing, okay, it's a bit all over the place or whatever, but you have to start somewhere. And that's the point. When you're starting something like this, you may be all over the place. You may have random videos. You may do whatever. You may not know if you want to be in a niche or you want to be general, or you just want to practice using the camera and talking, you know, because that's not easy. All these things, you have to break down all of the barriers. So anyway, she was very, very positive, but she had a different outlook to what I had, and I could feel that, engage that in the conversation. And then the other person was very, very encouraging, very excited, but nearly too excited. And what actually happened there was I found they were checking in with me constantly. Did you make a video? Did you make a video? Like, are you doing a video? Is there a video today? And, you know, that kind of added on an extra layer for me as well, where I was suddenly feeling like I felt so overwhelmed, that suddenly all of that creative flow and joy that I was feeling and the excitement, I was suddenly like, what am I doing? Like, I'm getting pressure on one side to get it done, and I'm thinking of the other side, what am I doing here? Like, I have nothing to talk about, you know. And it started from there then, and I was suddenly, and I actually found with it that, like, in general, I can kind of flow pretty easily. I like talking to people and whatever. It kind of comes natural, like I wouldn't be a shy person. But I actually found from the brain to the mouth was blocked. There was one day I had dedicated this day. It was at the weekend, a couple of weeks back, right at the early stages of the imposter syndrome kicking in, and I had got ready and I had said, I'm going to spend today, I had a free day, I'm going to spend today now and record a good few videos, and then maybe lash them out over the course of the week or whatever. And from the get-go, just everything was stopping me, everything was making me go on pause. I was sitting there sometimes and just with my mouth open, like, I couldn't get it out. It wouldn't come. And I'd come away from it for a while and I'd go back, and then suddenly I'd be just about to do it and there'd be like a racket out in the street, like kids playing or shouting or whatever. So everything was pausing me, and it just got worse and worse and bigger, to a point where I was like, here, I'm giving up. I can't do this. Like, I'm not, what am I even doing here? I felt like a total con artist, you know, which is ridiculous because it's just something for fun that you start out on and you progress as you go along. I certainly didn't need to feel all that pressure, because it, like, I see some people on here and they have to do it because financially they're reliant on making an income. Maybe they've lost their job or whatever. There's so many reasons people come on, and that wasn't the reason I was on. You know, where it develops into, yes, of course, I would like to develop it, but I wasn't feeling that. So I never expected imposter syndrome to kick in so badly. But it did, you know. So that's where I was at. But I used it's been two and a half weeks since I've been feeling like this with it. But I've used the 2.5 weeks to reflect and to really look at everything, the information I had amassed prior to me shutting down and saying, right, I don't even want to open the computer for the next 2 weeks. And I really did look back on it and see, like, some of the advice that I was getting as well was maybe not resonating with me, certain characters. You know, I heard people give advice about, oh, you really need to talk quickly all the time and and that's not a natural process for me. When I talk to somebody, I like to feel a flow in conversation. So when I was suddenly starting to tell myself like, oh no, I must talk faster and I must be quick. And like, I generally naturally talk fast if I get really excited, or maybe if I'm cross, I might be able to flow very quickly. But if I'm having a general chat with somebody, I like to speak and absorb what we're conversing about. So that information was useless for me. I saw somebody else's video and they were kind of saying, and I understand why they're saying it as well, because if you look at people like newsreaders or people on weather reports or something, it's generally they don't wear anything that's too, how would you say, patterned or design orientated. It's more like block colours. So I do understand that as well. But again, that was all adding up in my mind to causing a block for me, because I'm the type of character, well, I'll wear what I want, that way. And I think there's a place for that as well, to be honest with you. So I would recommend to anyone who starts to feel that way, you really have to feel what's right for you and what's authentic for you, because then you're going to be a bit more natural and you're going to be able to talk in a more flowing and natural way. And I think that's the way you're going to get the enjoyment out of it. So I feel like I'm going back to the drawing board again, and I'm starting back from square one again. But that's okay, because it's really made me take the time to look and go, what do I really want? So my advice would really be for anyone who's feeling a bit stuck or feeling a bit, what have I got to offer, or just feeling a little bit suddenly like you're a con artist and you shouldn't be here. Pare it all back and bring it back to how you feel best. So it's how you want to dress, how you want to look, how you want to talk. If you want to get in later on down the line and you want to monetize and sell something, then of course you can evolve. But when you're in the early days there's so many obstacles you're overcoming, and it can get very overwhelming. And to add, like, I would really suggest to anyone who's doing it, maybe hold off on telling your loved ones, because even though they have very good and well meaning towards it and excitement as well, but it adds an extra layer of pressure onto you that you don't have it when you aren't discussing with people you know. It's a different story once it starts, your channel becomes bigger and it starts getting out. But you're going to have people down the line who are not going to have a positive outlook on it. And that's their own business, because you're doing what you're doing for yourself and that's it. But in the early days, I would say, even when you've got those pals who are going to be very encouraging and excited, it still opens you up to other perspectives that can make you feel differently about your own perspective, and then it skews your vision, and then it wastes your time, because you suddenly start, when the fun and the joy is taken out of it, then you start to look at things in a more negative and harsh light, and then you're downhill from there, and that's not how I felt about it when I started out. But I very quickly changed into feeling a little bit like, no, what am I doing? And I wasn't even a person who was focused on numbers. Like, the numbers aren't the big thing for me. For me, it's the growth, so like, every little thing that I do is a step forward and is growth. But I suddenly started looking at it like, no, I'm kidding myself. So I would say, keep it to yourself. Sometimes it's not bad to keep some things to yourself for a little while, until you feel a bit more grounded and you get the confidence in yourself, and until you get a better flow, where it's all about the confidence really in the beginning. And if something impedes the confidence at all, it can be really hard to get it back. But it has stood. I don't feel it's been a waste for me either, because it has given me time to reflect back and to narrow down as well areas where I would like to kind of veer into and pursue. I've had time for that, and it's also given me time as well. I took a full-on break from it really for the last 2 weeks to let my mind settle. And I do think that kind of period of settle is very beneficial too, because you kind of process and eliminate anything that isn't really resonating with you also, you know. So, and the next thing to do is to just plow on and get back to it. So that's where I'm at right now with it. It is a real thing. It does happen, everyone, and it's happened to me. I'm sure it'll happen to you, but take a bit of time out, process what you're doing, and get back into it again. And it'll all come right in the end. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.